record. When I built my companies, I've said this, but I don't know how many of you have caught on. When I do my market research, I definitely want to know what's going on in the neighborhood called my niche. Okay. So like, depending what niche you're going into, you want to know what the customary standard policy is. And I've actually talked a lot about this when you build a website, even because people get accustomed to the way certain things are done. And it's kind of like if you go into a high-end subdivision and all of a sudden, you know, there's a house there that's 30 years old and it looks like a freaking eyesore, and they refuse to sell their land when they built the subdivision. So now you got this gorgeous subdivision, you got this eyesore. If you're not aware of what happens in an industry, you could become the eyesore when someone's doing their market research. So that's important. But the more critical factor to copy and things like that, and I'm going to go really deep with you guys next month. I mean, I'm excited because I literally can take a, let's see, 5, 10, 15, 20-week course and teach it to you in a month. Y'all better get your scuba gear because I've got 5 sessions each week on copy. And I'm going to take you full immersion into copy. And one of the biggest criteria, which led me to want to do what I'm going to do with you today, is that once I've done my typical market research, I look at other niches that have nothing to do with me. Like I have a 12-week course that I sold out. It brought in over $400,000. And the strategy in how I launched this course that was teaching ads and copywriting came from Drybar, which is a blowout a salon for women, and studying how she built that huge brand. So what I'm going to share with you today is something that I've recently subscribed to. One of the things that I bring to you is I subscribe to a ton of periodicals, publications, things that are out there on marketing trends, on what's working, what's not working, what are the statistics, how are things changing across the board in the online world, and it does even tap into the offline world. And one of those resources that I recently got, and this is why I wanted to have you guys jump into Zoom with me. One of the resources that I recently have been going through is from Trends.co. It's actually a paid subscription. I will post my referral link in the group right now. And this costs me, let me see where my referral link, here it is. This costs me $299 a year. Nothing. It's nothing. Now, not all of you are actually going to have that in your budget to get that. But some of you are in industries that it would mean everything for you to have access to this. And this publication is so cool because it's giving me some input on how businesses are pivoting, how businesses started, all kinds of stuff. I would steer clear, most of you, from some of the events they're actually putting on, though, because it's going to be done with like a traditional agency type perspective. Like, for example, the future of hygiene. I'm going to talk to you today about industries that are pivoting, and we're going to talk about industries that will change the way the world does life forever because of this pandemic. It has been my belief during the last 4 weeks, and I will prove it to you, that it's not likely masks and the sanitation industry will ever go back to where it is. And one of the things that's really interesting is some of these companies that had nothing to do with those industries are making millions of dollars. This is predicted to be a multi-billion, if not trillion-dollar industry in the next 3 to 5 years. Face masks and sanitation. So we'll talk about that. And in Trends, there's a cool article on the future of hygiene. And one of them is the far UVC lighting, where some stores are going to put some of that, the red lighting that destroys bacteria. Side note, that is one of the therapies that I have used for my autoimmune conditions is red light therapy, because one of the greatest ways to get rid of misunderstood or undiagnosed bacteria or virus in your body that's not obviously life-threatening or anything is to have red light therapy. So anyway, industries that have changed forever. Here's the interesting thing. Another thing that I predicted and I told you guys about is that people are going to say, there's no need for you to come back to work. You can work from home forever. Well, Twitter was the first forerunner who said, we're going to work from home forever. And we're not taking questions right now. So you can, there's no questions, and we're not going to bring up questions until I'm done. If I have an opportunity to do questions. Square made an announcement this week as well. All of their people are going to be working from home. So when you hear that kind of stuff, you might be thinking, well, that's fine. I work from home. That doesn't bother me. Start thinking like an entrepreneur. Because if you are going to see a massive shift in major corporations having their workers from home, that means people who work from home and these corporations are not just going to be in survival anymore, where everybody has this makeshift setup in their home. You've got massive industries now that are catering to the work at home world in a way they never did before. This is some of the stuff that I found in Trends. So for example, let me show you one of them. Deskmate is a company that has made millions of dollars, and they historically had come up with standing desks. There's an electric wired standing desk. You've got a cardboard standing desk. There's wooden standing desks and standing desk converters. Their sales have gone up 400% because people are looking at the fact that it's likely I'm going to be working from home for a long time. And they were genius, because a lot of people just think that a standing desk looks like this, or a standing desk is something that goes up and down. No, they created a cardboard standing desk that you actually could take up and down during your workday and convert your kitchen table into a standing desk. They created things like this wooden standing desk that you actually could put next to your kitchen table or your counter and turn your counter space part-time from 9 to 5 or whatever your shift was into a cubicle type standing desk unit. And it's wild that they use this really heavy cardboard. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And you will see they also are tapping into the mask industry. And they're completely freaking sold out. A standing desk company. There are several industries that I've been reading about. The first one is the sanitation industry, that people are making millions of dollars in now. If you've thought about that, or if you've entertained that idea, let me tell you what actually is working, is selling, and some companies that would have had to completely shut down. There are companies that are completely shut down. And I'm not talking just big companies like Pier 1 is shutting down every one of their stores. They went bankrupt. Every Pier 1 store is now shut down forever. But there are small businesses as well that have pivoted to the sanitation industry and are now, that's what they're doing for the business. And sanitation is not just hand sanitizers. Think like a business owner. You have antibacterial lotion and gel. You have hand wipes that have to be disposable because of virus. You have surface wipes. There are adult wipes, kids wipes, infant wipes, wipes that you would bring when you go to a public place, wipes that you use in your home, organic wipes, traditional wipes, plant-based wipes, go on and on and on. Mark my words, the hemp industry is going to be fueling into this wipe industry because there's a whole lot more hemp leaves that can be used in that. And traditionally, our nation, America, was founded on the hemp industry way before soybeans and everything else. Hemp was a big issue. The sanitation industry, it's fascinating to me. That's predicted not to ever change, okay? Think like an entrepreneur. This pandemic has literally changed the way people do life. Restaurants will never be the same. It's predicted. Okay, there's a lot of restaurants like around my area where all of a sudden they were packed and bars were packed and stuff like that. That was before the major regulations got set out. President Trump announced today that if governors do not abide by a certain regulation within their states, then they're going to make it national, federal regulation. And one of those things is going to be sanitation in restaurants. It has been predicted by more than 10 of the publications that I've been reading that we're going to see this limited capacity and somewhat, I don't know if it's going to stay at 6 feet of social distancing for years, not just for a couple months. So when you see news reports of like, and I've seen it here in Arizona where like all of a sudden like places are overcrowded and packed or whatever, that's not going to last forever. There's going to be regulations beyond that. There's just no way. And I'm going to tell you why, from a purely entrepreneurial point of view and not from a disease prevention point of view. It has to change, because if it doesn't change, what's going to happen is if you've got restaurants where people are running in without masks and you have no sanitation policies and you have people swarming into restaurants and somebody doesn't regulate that, that's going to bleed into every other industry, and there's no way they're going to allow that. So sanitation is a massive industry. If you've ever wondered, like, how the heck do you get something like that off the ground? There's also another company that has recently surfaced that is pretty cool. This one's fascinating to me. It's called tinycapital.com. And tinycapital.com starts, buys, and invests in internet businesses, and not internet businesses that are like hundreds of millions and billions. They're actually helping fund small businesses. This gave me an idea to become, possibly become Tiny Capital's competitor. That is something I would love to do, or to model what Tiny Capital's doing. And let me not share my screen so you can hear me. In the inner circle, I have a dream about funding, tapping into, providing capital. To my inner circle members who have businesses that already started up, I'm not talking about from conception. I'm talking helping you to keep your doors open and or grow. The only reason you didn't go to 1 million is because maybe you didn't have $20,000 in capital or something like that. If I want to be single-handedly effective in helping people get off of unemployment and jobs to be restored, well, we currently have almost 1,900 small business owners in here, of which I bet you 10 to 20% of you could use some capital just to grow. So when I saw Tiny Capital, that's just ridiculously amazing. I do know that there are a couple of you in the inner circle. For those of you who think the inner circle is just for small business owners who've never done anything in their life, I already know there are 3 people in the inner circle who have built, grown, and sold 200, 300, 400, 500, $900 million companies. So the inner circle is not just a place where people come to make the first 10,000. There are company owners in here who are pivoting, who are looking at what's out there, et cetera. And so I'm excited about building something like Tiny Capital within the inner circle. And if you are one of those people who is looking for some investing, I'm actually going to have Tiffany create a portfolio for me. This isn't going to happen till starting at least for the next 2 weeks, but we would do a survey or something, or Google Docs, and Tiffany will get the stats of your sales, where you were, where you are, needs you have, what industry and whatever, and we'll review those in a spreadsheet form. I think that's fantastic. Another industry, and when I read this incredible report, and unfortunately, I don't think I can share it. Let me ask Trends if I can. But it was how 19 small businesses are responding to COVID-19. There were several companies that have become a mask providing company. And don't think they're just these masks that go across your ears. Think like an innovator. There are masks that are attached to a visor that's a plastic shield for children, for infants. You can't put a mask around a child's ears. Are you kidding me? The average 1 or 2 year old is going to be like ripping that thing off. And aside from trying to put it around their head, of which the sunglass industry and other things with kids have proven that's not going to go either very well. They rip that off. There are people who've created these visors that have a plastic shield that goes around it, and they put a mask underneath. It's really innovative. You have not only fashionable masks, disposable masks, you have masks that can be rewashed, obviously. I mean, Kim Kardashian has a $50 million company with Skims at skims.com. And she built not only loungewear, but very comfortable, effective women's lingerie. Not really lingerie. It's very simple, comfortable, but great for today's fashion. She also built within that shapewear, and she came out with the same material that her super comfy female lingerie is coming out with, masks. And they sold the hell out. Almost $1 million in sales within the first couple of days. This is not an industry that's going to go away. I think you're going to see the echo, and I think you're actually going to see a build on face masks. That's my business trends and patterns and even prophetic insight. I'll tell you, we haven't even hit the tipping point yet with face masks. Why would I say that? Because all these people are not out of their homes yet. We're just talking about covering our face when we're trying to protect ourselves when we have to go to essential businesses. When we go back into full-on immersion where the whole nation is interacting with each other again, face masks and sanitation is going to go, whoa! You haven't even hit the tipping point yet. Haven't even hit the tipping point. We have not seen how big the sanitation industry and face mask industry is going to go with wipes, with sanitizer, with hands, lotions, child's surface wipes, infant wipes, kids wipes, face masks, visors, all this, until everybody's back into some set of going together. There are schools that aren't even going back till next year. So that means the mask industry hasn't hit a tipping point yet because all these kids are still at home. When I'm sharing some of this with you, that's what you have to think. A lot of small business owners in desperation, especially those who are trying to start something new, are only thinking about, oh my God, what can I do in the next 30 days? You've got to think beyond that. We haven't even hit the tipping point in the sanitation and face mask industry. Hell no. Now, when we get to online learning, check this out, because I know there's a lot of you that this can help. Check out just 3 sites that I was like, what on earth? So there's an industry called The Lane that was a social club for kids and their families that opened up a 7,800 square foot place in New York. They did almost $2 million like within their first year. And it was a social club for kids and families. You didn't have to clean up your kids' messes and all this kind of other crap that you've never seen before. And then the pandemic came and their doors were shut. Like there was no option at all. So they pivoted and created a social hub for kids online, where what they did is they innovated to what has not been done in the online space yet. And one of the things that they pivoted to here's the Lane Social Club, but they now brought the Unsocial Club and Lane at Home, where now you can buy kits to make home fun. You can actually have activities and humor for fun. You can actually, as well, they are building software where, for example, like online movies are now educating, where they are innovating how education is done. We've only talked about being a tutor, coming up with ways to support these kids. This company and other companies are looking at, no, education will probably not ever be the same for at least a minimum of the next 3 years. So how can we shift and pivot and provide ways of providing education in an online space that's not only going to help at home, think the tipping point, but education is going to change once kids start going back to school, because like now they're going to have social distancing and they're going to have masks, and oh my God, it might be better off to have standing desks in schools. And how can we change? Okay, kids are going to have to be able to learn somewhat on their own. Everything's not going to be done like it was in traditional education. There's no way. There's not going to be enough time. You're going to have limited capacities. The buildings they had are not going to hold these kids. What the hell are we going to do? This is what you have to think about. And you have to answer what the hell are we going to do? Some of you could come up with something that could literally single-handedly put you into a status of wealth you never dreamed possible. Another online world for education that I thought was incredible was college. But before I go to there, look at this. There was a place that had a company that had a big business in New York, and I don't have time to tell you what it was, but anyway, it completely went bankrupt. And she had a long time dream of teaching kids how to become Broadway actors. And she's like, well, I sure as heck can't do that face to face anymore. And she created the very first BroadwayFromHome.com. BWayFromHome.com. You can actually get classes. There are Zoom meetings. There is tutoring, and they are teaching how to perform your favorite musicals from home. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Now we're going to go into college tutoring and more online sites. Crazy stuff that I found. Oh my gosh, I love watching the innovative mind of entrepreneurs. It is one of my favorite healthy addictions. Knackapp.com is showing people all over the world. What you see right here is a Knack app user in South Africa. And these are apps that use smart gaming apps that help you to discover your talents and skills, connect with education programs, and actually, get discovered by employers. What? You actually get to play a game, because there are employers and industries online that are looking for college prep and college students who have a capacity, a hidden human potential that they would never be able to discover unless they put that person into a behavioral science think tank with artificial intelligence and smart video games. It's being used in over 100 countries and 20 languages. OMG. This is an entrepreneur. You play a fun game, you unlock and broadcast your hidden skills and talents, you connect with the best learning and job opportunities, and you get discovered by schools and employers. Check out this, because it might inspire you. There might be something you could help with. I mean, we're talking management, educational counselor, nurse, pharmacist, software developer. What? I love this. And since we are taking our children to an online learning world so heavily, this is brilliant. Absolutely freaking. I just, it was like this is the kind of stuff that lights me up. The next one is joinknack.com, where this is where a lot of people don't realize, although we do have one of our members who does, and I hope she's paying attention, that tutoring in college is a huge reason why people have success. Because of the different learning styles, et cetera, as well as what I just showed you, that filling out a test and filling out a blank and taking an ACT or an SAT or whatever is so freaking old school. And the traditional way of testing, absolutely, in my opinion, is atrocious when we are dealing with a fully submerged technological world. And if I'm going to say this as carefully and as respectfully as I can, because I'm not saying it to offend anyone, because I'm here to help as much as I can. But if this pandemic did not prove to you that the traditional way offline businesses were doing business, thinking they didn't need the internet and they didn't need to be able to pivot and they didn't need a plan B and they didn't need technology in the restaurant and they didn't need technology in their offline business, I don't know what else will. Because I've been saying for years, using the online space is more than just using it like a business card. And so now we're looking at a full submersion society in this. And you've got here at joinknack.com where campuses have tutoring centers, think tanks, etc. And it's revolutionizing the way tutoring is done. Another one is knack.com. This is not tutoring, but when I began studying Knack, I saw that there are a lot of companies that are coming online. There are people who are finally stepping out of their box, getting over their crap, wanting to do what they've been dreaming about, but creating a database and having to code and different things like that. I'm actually looking at this to create some workbooks and stuff like that for within the inner circle and moving forward and making things simpler. What this is the power of a database right in your own hands, that you don't need to know how to code. You don't need to know how to build all kinds of back-end software, but you can actually supercharge your data. And it connects with all different kinds of customary forms and reports and maps and e-commerce and tables and calendars, etc., and uses the kind of tools that we're used to using, but it puts the power in your hand so that you don't necessarily need a developer. Brilliant, freaking brilliant. And there are a lot of businesses that the way that they are keeping their employees on payroll is by simply pivoting the way they do things and lowering their costs. That this business is tripled their sales since the pandemic. By the way, no credit card required. You can actually do a free 14-day trial. And we're all thankful this is being recorded. Some of this kind of stuff is so innovative because some of you are only looking at, oh my God, how can I create an information product? Yes, information products are great, but you've got to think out of the box and how to be innovative. The last one I wanted to show you, which was really cool, and I didn't even know this could happen, and that is that many vets are struggling like massively, like they're on the verge of bankruptcy because foot traffic's down. And again, like my state is one of the three that's widely open and people are still super hesitant. Look at this nationwide. So the vet industry has turned into pet telehealth. And apparently vets going into the telehealth industry using database tools like I just showed you, using online tools like I just showed you, are not only keeping their doors open, some vets have said they're actually going to close their practice and become a full-time telehealth provider because all of their staff are actually working from their home and they're building multi-million-dollar pet telehealth. Crazy, amazing. The last thing I want to show you before we're going to end this, because I'm a stickler for keeping things on track so you guys trust me, and when we build a schedule, you actually know I'm not going to go for 2 hours just because I'm long-winded. I like schedules and I like staying on task is my love language. Metalab.co. Is it actually going to come up? Metalab, let's see if I can pull it up from here. Metalab is a product design agency that is working through Tiny Capital. It looks like they might be hit with too much traffic or something. That is actually helping people to build interfaces and connecting them with resources. If you ever thought about building an app or anything else like that. And again, I have a dream of like creating a Tiny Capital within the inner circle. And I want to start as of next week to get some hard data on your information. And who knows, maybe there's somebody here in the group who could use that Knack, create a database for us and wants to offer their services at 75% off and consider possibly becoming a part of the ARC team to help us create an incredible database of everything that's going on in the inner circle, who the business owners are, what they're doing, what the revenue is, what capital they need. And I would love to do something like you see on tinycapital.com within the inner circle. Imagine that. Imagine if the inner circle single-handedly brought 10,000 people off unemployment or more. So the recording will be uploaded here by the end of the day like we typically do. But remember what I said. The tipping point in the sanitation industry, the tipping point in the mask industry has not even been hit yet. Because we've only been using wipes and antibacterial stuff and surface wipes and disposable wipes and infant wipes and kids wipes and everything else like that when we're trying to prevent ourselves from illness. But now you got restaurants and stores and all whatever. Every single store is going to be mandated by law to be wiping everything. And there are a couple companies on that report that I got from Trends that actually pivoted into the wipes industry and are servicing restaurants and stores and are making tens of millions of dollars, like crazy. When I told you about a friend of mine who got that $36 million order just for capes, that was mostly for the medical world. That he didn't even hit salons yet or anything else. Our world as we know it is not going back to normal, if ever, or maybe not for a long time. And the sanitation industry, the protective gear industry, the mask industry hasn't even gotten where it's going to be until all of a sudden everybody's like interacting with each other again. So I will see